Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of A Healthy Dose of Fran. Today, if you've been seeing it on my Instagram, I'm reviewing a new film that's come out here in the UK, and I also think globally. And that film is Bohemian Rhapsody, the biopic of Queen from small-time band to absolute legends. The film itself stars Rami Malek, Ben Hardy, Gwyneth Lee, Joseph Mazzello and Lucy Boynton. So the male names in that list play Queen themselves, with Rami Malek as the lead, Freddie Mercury. Lucy, who is in that list, plays Mary Austin, who is the fiance and then ex-fiance, spoilers but probably common knowledge to people who know a lot about Queen, and then close friend of Freddie Mercury for the rest of his life. I'm going to kind of get right into this review because I know a lot of people are interested to know whether or not this film is worth going to, and probably more than anything if it plays a lot of the fan favourites of Queen's music. And just going from that, this is my review of Bohemian Rhapsody. So technically, before I do start this review, I am going to issue a spoiler alert. I won't be talking too much about plot related points, but I thought it best to issue it just in case. So if you do want to miss the chance of me talking about something plot related, I'll put a time up here that you can go to so you can just get an overview of whether or not the film is good and something that you could and should go to see. I will also be doing the rating as well, that'll be coming up, so you'll definitely know kind of my own opinion of whether or not you should go see the film. But to get right into this, the main thing that I kind of, just with the starting point of the film, is that it does this thing that a lot of biopics usually start with these days, and that is kind of starting at the end and then going back and going on into that point. So this film starts with the lead up to the Live Aid concert, where Queen reunited themselves to do a performance for Live Aid, which was the charity concert to help the starving children in Africa in the late 80s or mid 80s. And it had like Bon Jovi, Bowie and all that sort of stuff, and they managed to fit themselves in, and they stole the show basically with their powerhouse numbers and the fact that they obviously interact a lot with the audience. The things that I enjoyed the most about this is generally just kind of Rami Malek particularly. So Rami I know predominantly from Mr. Robot. I didn't watch that show that much, just because it kind of wasn't my kind of thing, but I liked the show for him. Also I enjoyed his work in Night at the Museum as the pharaoh, whose name I currently cannot remember. I think Ramesses? Is that who he plays? If it's not, let me know in the comments because I don't remember. But his work in this film, you can see that he's definitely kind of gotten into the skin of Freddie Mercury. He's kind of really, he's done a really good job. Like I saw little bits of it on Graham Norton and his discussion of how he got into the role of Freddie Mercury. Like he kept the teeth that he was given to kind of show the look that Freddie had, and he noticed that it kind of does give you that sort of sense of being able to express and kind of speak a lot better with it and kind of open your mouth more. And we had the discussion about the teeth actually within the film, which was something I didn't know, that Freddie was born with extra incisors, which means he can open his mouth wider and kind of get a deeper and more powerful sound, which is why his voice was so impressive. So in the film itself, we kind of have lots of different kind of moments in time where we learn kind of the backstory of the famous songs. So the We Will Rock You was written by Brian, who was the guitarist, who's played by Gwyneth Lee. He kind of came up with the beat. We had John, the bassist, who was played by Joseph Mazzello. We learned that he came up with a riff for Another One Bites the Dust, and so many things like that. So we get lots of tidbits about the songs for it, which unless you are a huge fan of Queen and kind of done that sort of research, you possibly may not have known. I learned this recently mainly because I watched the film review on the BBC where they discuss this, and it's actually that I think the members of Queen were the producers for this film, so they kind of made sure that it was kind of done correctly, which I quite enjoyed. Enjoyed learning at least. I am kind of going to bring up some of the issues that I did have with the film itself, and the main one, and this is a big thing that has kind of gone on throughout time really, and that is the bi-erasure of Freddie Mercury. So lots of people refer to Freddie Mercury as a gay man, when in fact he was bisexual. He had a long-term, lovely relationship with Mary Austin where they were engaged, they were happy. He still called her the love of his life, and so, like, even after their relationship did fall apart. The main issue that I did have with the film where this kind of comes up is that Freddie does refer to himself as bisexual when he's talking to Mary, giving a reason as to why he's kind of not feeling their relationship as much anymore, and it's because he is bisexual. And the moment he said that, I was like, oh yes, finally they are bringing in the fact that he is bisexual into this film. Straight after that, Mary then goes on to refer to him and say, no, you're gay. And I'm pretty sure I probably pissed off my mum with this, because I turned and was like, they were so close. They were going to do it. Why do they have to ruin it? He's bisexual. Stop saying he's gay. And kind of from that moment I was like, you guys had that moment to actually do it and talk about the fact that he is bisexual, but you didn't. And that's kind of a thing that did frustrate me the most, because it's a huge thing with Freddie Mercury where not only is he whitewashed, because lots of people believe that Freddie was white when he is of Asian heritage, and he wasn't born here in the UK either. Him and his family moved over here. I think they mentioned it in the film. I think he was like 18 or something. So it frustrated me a lot that this is another thing that is being erased of Freddie. And so that was kind of one negative that I do have for the film. The other is that although there is the good introduction of the characters and their story and so on and so forth, there is too many time jumps in my opinion. So we have their first performance as a group when they're still going as, I think it was You Should Smile, I think was the name of their group. It's a bit of a rubbish name. So that was the name of their group before they had Freddie as their lead singer, and they kind of kept it for a while until Freddie came up with Queen. And there is, I think, like a year or a 2-year time jump between that and them kind of touring universities. And then there's another time jump after that. And some of the transitions that they do make, so this is kind of mainly from like someone who analyses these things, because I can't not analyse things anymore. I blame my creative writing degree for that. Ed Sheeran, as much as I loved going to that uni, you've ruined films for me. And books, and pretty much anything that tells a story. I can't not critique it. So my mum, she had no issue with anything. She absolutely loved the film and all of that. But I have to pick away at it and kind of find the things that could have been improved. And this was one of the things that, if you are going to do a time jump, have it make sense, or kind of give a good reason why there should be. Because as much as it's interesting to see it, like, it was too random of a point to put in. Like, I didn't understand the justification behind them putting that time jump in, and it was such a poor transition to make that time jump. It was just, I could find no justification behind the reason for it. And there was a point later on where they had shown the fact that they tour the world pretty much, and I remember looking at it and thinking, it's like someone's used Windows Movie Maker and shown kind of different stills of Freddie doing a performance move, and then kind of having word art flying out saying the different countries that they're in. And that goes on for at least a minute or two. And I'm sat there just thinking, this is the sort of thing I did in secondary school. Like, this is like a Hollywood budget, and they're doing the sort of thing that I could do in secondary school. And it kind of took me out of the film for a little bit. I was just like, you could have done so much better with that. At least kind of, well, they could, the thing, so this is just a thing that I thought they could have done. In terms of showing that they're in different areas, actually have footage of, or scenes of them in the different countries. And what would have been even cool if they used actual live footage of them in the different countries, kind of like at the distance you're seeing the crowd, and then kind of put in the title caption of where they are and kind of doing lots of that. it would have more of an impact than having just kind of a random still and then a silhouette of Freddie's movement with then flying words of where they are. It just kind of didn't make sense to me. And that all kind of ties in, especially with like the time jump aspect, the pacing that goes on in this film. It's kind of like they couldn't make up their minds. There was moments where it was incredibly fast paced. There was the music making, there was the arguments that were going on with the band, there was the arguments and the kind of the dramatic moments that were going on in Freddie's life. But then it would slow down suddenly and it kind of becomes slow, and there'd be the conversations and with Freddie and him understanding his sexuality, or moments with the band when he's realising things aren't going well. And it would just slow down, and I'd be so aware of everything going on around me, because we've gone from fast pace, drop, slow, and then just suddenly go into fast paced moments again. And I feel like that's just generally very poor either filmmaking or writing. I can't tell really the way in which it was done, because sometimes it is that, sorry about that, fatherly emergency. So you can't really tell whether or not it's the filmmaker's decision or the writer's decision to have that pacing thing happen, but it did kind of pull you out of what was going on. Especially me, I found myself kind of falling back and thinking, what is going on? I don't understand. And then kind of getting pulled back in, pulled back out. It's like the film couldn't make up its mind whether or not it was going to be a slow drama or an upbeat, quick, interesting, like audience grabbing film. And I think they did kind of ruin it a little bit, but it was thankfully saved by the interesting moments of learning about how the band came up with their songs, seeing the way in which that happened. So like Bohemian Rhapsody, we learn they went out to the country, they used so much experimentation by combining the operatic and rock together. We then also learned that the song was, with it being over 6 minutes, their original recording label didn't want to put it on the radio, didn't want it to be the main song because it wasn't going to sell, which obviously it did. And then the whole reason behind We Will Rock You came out of the fact that when they were at a concert in Rio, the entire audience began to sing one of their songs completely, which they weren't expecting, because they didn't even know if they could understand what they were saying, because they were speaking in and singing in English, and obviously in Rio, Portuguese is the original language. I think I'll probably put a caption here if that was wrong. And the whole reason of them singing it to them and the band being like in awe of the fact that that was happening led to Brian wanting to write We Will Rock You to get the audience involved, because it was such an eye-opening moment. And kind of lots of things like that. And we do also then later on have the moments of Freddie falling into his alcoholism and his loneliness. And I don't know whether or not it's true, but we had the way in which I was kind of taking it on, in the way in which he feels isolated, and we see him becoming isolated and not having the family that the other members have, develops a sort of loneliness and possibly depression. At least that's how I saw it. I don't really know kind of the life of Freddie Mercury or Queen very well, but that's kind of at least how the film seemed to be portraying it, which is how he very easily kind of seemed to fall into alcoholism and drug abuse, even if that seemed to be perpetrated by Paul, who was Freddie's personal manager. Again, not to show how embellished that element was. And it's kind of along that lines that we see Freddie falling into this spiral of being with lots of different people. And there's this I don't know if this is what did happen in real life, but there's a lot of seemingly slut shaming of Freddie that goes on, especially in the later half of this film, where we are seeing him with lots of different lovers, the fact that the reporters are focusing on that. And then after Freddie fires Paul for all the horrible things that he's been putting him through, Paul then goes on to tell the world basically that Freddie had a lot of lovers and was kind of, again, slut shaming him a lot. So whether or not that did actually happen could be true, but it just seemed to be just generally slut shaming someone for something that's quite human. But we then do later on have the moment of obviously learning that Freddie had contracted AIDS, and how he wanted to get the band back together, kind of for a last hurrah sort of thing. Him then meeting his partner Jim Hutton, I think his name was, definitely Jim H something. And this is where the moment that kind of leads up to the final performance at Live Aid. And I do like kind of the ending part of we're seeing the kind of the way in which the band reconnects and the emotions that come alongside. Like, I was getting emotional at the fact that we are seeing the way in which Freddie learns what's happening to him. Reconnecting with his family, especially his dad, who there didn't seem to be the best relationship at the start. And we are learning quite a lot, so it does grip you a lot more at the end, but that's when the pacing seems to sort itself out, especially kind of near the end. We then, at the final credits, get the learn about Freddie's last moments in life, what year he died, the way in which his friendship with Mary Austin started. There was like a charity that was set up for him. And I think the way in which it was done and the way in which the music was incorporated did really work. And this is for the people who'll be coming back now and not experiencing the spoilers that I may possibly have given. I don't really know if I did now. The film itself, from a general audience perspective, is good. You could enjoy it from just a general perspective, going in, enjoying the film, kind of not focusing in too much on what's happening. Like my mum, she absolutely loved the film. She enjoyed the music, she enjoyed the story. Obviously with me, I did have the few issues with the pacing, the transitions, and the fact that Freddie Mercury was characterised as gay and not bisexual, which he was. And I am going to give this film kind of a 6 out of 10, really, just because I do, from my own position, find the issues with it in terms of a film perspective. But for a general audience, I would give it about maybe kind of like a 7. So not still not any better, but you know, it's still 6, 7 out of 10. So I would suggest anyone who's not very analytical of things like this and kind of analyses every little moment to go see it. If you are one of those people who do analyse this a lot, I would suggest against, just because if I analyse a lot, you'll analyse a lot and you may not enjoy it as much. I want to thank you guys so much for watching this review of Bohemian Rhapsody and for giving the support to my channel. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, go to the button down below or click the one that will be popping up here on screen. If you're not already following my Instagram and blog, the links to those are in the description box below, as well as the link to the trailer for Bohemian Rhapsody. If you want to see any of my other videos, suggestions will be popping up here. Again, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys next time.